Welcome to The Exclusive. I'm your host, Sharon Tharp, and we are back with a week 4 breakdown of everything going on in the house, in the episode, on the game, and social media. And today I'm super excited. I'm joined by the Veto King himself, Big Brother 24 alum, Michael Bruner. Michael, thank you for joining me.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, me too. Before we dive in, just how have you been, since we've seen you last summer?
Yeah, I've been good. I've been a fan of Big Brother forever, and I always said I want to play the game and then I want to go back to real life, and I've gone back to real life. So I'm very happy with that. Back working, back with my fiance. We're getting married in a couple months. Wedding is in October, so I've been doing a lot of planning, so that's been a lot of fun. And he did all of the big stuff while I was in the house last summer, so now I get to do the fun little details. So
Oh,
worked
no,
out.
yeah. You guys were engaged last summer. You were engaged when you were in the house too.
Yep.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we ran into each other at the party. Did you have fun at the premiere party?
Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. The energy in there was great. I could hardly hear anything on the TV, so I had to go back and watch it later. But it was so much fun. I always love, I'm a super fan at heart, so I was in a room full of other super fans. It was so much fun.
It was cool. Yeah, I'm always curious because I was thinking about this earlier. I feel like recruits, when they go on the show, are more likely, it seems, at least to me, to become a fan after they get out of the house. Where a lot of diehard fans, once they play, the Franzels, the Dan Gieslings, stop watching the show. And I'm
Mhm.
curious, how being on the show has kind of changed your fandom. Has it, yeah, I guess how has it changed at all, if it has?
Yeah, I still love the game. I used Big Brother Canada as kind of my test. I was like, I'll watch BB Can 11, see how I feel. It's not quite the same. It's not gonna be the same house. And that I was it was fine. I mean, I missed the live feeds obviously, but I was I don't feel weird watching. And so then I was I'll give it a shot, and I'm back to, watching the show, watching the feeds, and I don't know. I just love it, and it's not summer without Big Brother for me, and so I'm happy that it didn't change it, because I was worried about, because I definitely heard a lot of people their experience it really changed, but I had a really positive experience, so I think that helps as well.
Yeah, I was gonna say that is true. If you've had a good experience, you're more likely to still
Yeah.
watch the show. Um, but yeah, do you tune into the live feeds a lot when you can? How diehard, I guess, are you with the feeds? Because I know it's a full-time job, especially with this cast.
Oh yeah. I try to have the feeds up. Sometimes if I can manage it while I'm working, on a break, I'll check it. Or obviously I had to watch most of the pressure cooker. I was not about to stay up all night for that, because I did have to work the next day. But I was pleasantly surprised to see that they were still going when I woke up, so I got to watch the end of the competition.
Yeah, that was fun. I also tried to stay up. I think I lasted till 5 a.m. and I was like,
Oof.
I can't do it anymore. Um, in terms of just the season, are you enjoying it? What do you think so far?
Yes, I am loving this season. The Big Brother that I grew up on and that I fell in love with was very much old school Big Brother, and this cast gives me a lot of old school vibes just from, the split house in the very first week. Some people are a little petty, and the gameplay and some of the game moves aren't always maybe what we would think is the smartest for some people, but I appreciate that people are playing hard. It doesn't feel like people are just there to skate by to jury to get as much airtime as they can to kickstart an influencer career after something. Feels like so many players are there to play from the very beginning. And I love that even people who are in very safe, very comfortable spots are willing to be a little risky and a little messy. So I really appreciate that.
I agree. I even told, I think, Riley and Heisem in my exit interviews, I so appreciate when people use that eviction speech. I know it doesn't change minds, guys. I
Mhm.
get it, but I still love the fight.
Yeah.
That's what I appreciate. So
Hmm. Yeah, people who are willing to fight and try until the very last second, that's what I want to see. So, because there's so many people out there who would die for that opportunity. So to see people just kind of accept their fate and roll over is so hard to watch as a fan. So, I love that I haven't really felt that from anyone.
I agree. Who of the players are you liking? Who are you not a big fan of? Anyone stick out?
Yeah, so as a whole, I love the cast. I love how hard Izzy is playing. I've really been enjoying her a
Me
lot.
too.
She is making for great feeds and it's such a shame that the edit isn't portraying what we see
Yeah.
on the feeds of her.
She'll get
So
her moment.
I'm very disappointed about that, but I've loved watching her. Obviously Cirie, I'm a huge Survivor fan, and I love Cirie. Felicia is incredible, just so unfiltered and real. I really like Jag. I think Blue is a very fun personality. I don't necessarily love how she's playing the game at the moment, but she was someone from the very beginning that I thought was a lot of fun. And even just the fact that I've favorites were on opposite sides of the house, that's also fun because, when it's split, and like, I don't, as a fan, I don't want to watch a steamroll. So like having people on both sides that I'm rooting for. I also really like Corey. I think Corey and America are both really smart players. And they're gaming, but they're not boring, which I appreciate. Like
Yeah.
sometimes people know the smart thing is to just float and don't do much, but they're scheming and they're getting in there and making alliances. So I think they're both a lot of fun, and they're definitely ones to watch as well.
Yeah, I agree. I'm like really liking this cast. They're messy, but they're also like strategic and want to be there. I mean, Cirie is a little bit running circles around them, but
Yeah.
it is fun. In terms of Survivor, I'm just curious, like how long have you been watching Survivor? Are you like a diehard Survivor fan?
Oh yeah. So I started watching Survivor and Big Brother around the same time. I think season 4, Marquesas was the first season that I watched, like saw on TV.
Mm,
And my parents didn't like that I watched it, so I didn't like get to watch every single episode, but like I've obviously gone back and I've seen all the seasons like multiple times. So big Survivor fan.
love that. Okay, cool. Well, I guess we can like kick things off let's start about where we left off on Thursday. So Heisem is gone. I wanted to bring up just because he won 3 out of 4 comps. Of course, people are trying to compare him to you. It was very early in the game. What did you think about Heisem, and was he winning too much early, do you think?
Yeah, I really liked Heisem. He gave me very much old school Big Brother vibes. Just the fact that he was willing to come in and win so many competitions right away, and really seemed like, obviously we knew from his diary room sessions about, he was loyal to his alliance, and he's willing to
Yeah.
put this target to protect the people that he cares about. They didn't necessarily know that, unfortunately. So I appreciated that. I think one of my favorite things that I saw preseason was people like, this guy looks like Michael with muscles, which made
Oh
me
my God.
laugh really hard. And then he started winning these comps. But obviously I think he did ultimately win too much too soon. Um, and I think part of it too was, his alliance talked about how they didn't feel heard. I think that was also maybe even a bigger
That
issue
was a
if his
bigger
alliance
issue
had
for
felt more
sure.
supported, or they're like, Heisem's winning these competitions, that's great, and we can have influence over what he does with this power. But if they didn't feel that way, and maybe that he was just making the decisions and telling them to go along with it. So I think it was maybe a mix of that, because I think competitions early on, you can prove that you are an asset to your alliance, or you can prove that you're a big threat. And I think, unfortunately, his alliance just viewed him more as a threat than an asset. Personally, I think that was maybe an incorrect read, but I have all the information sitting on the couch, and they don't, unfortunately.
Exactly. I think I completely agree with that. I think his mouth got him more into trouble than just the competitions. And yeah, his alliance sadly didn't realize how loyal he was, because he told me he was willing to continue to work with the professors after they tried to, backdoor him
Yeah,
clearly.
which is
So
crazy, but
wild. Okay. Well, okay, so we saw the pressure cooker tonight. Cameron won. What are your thoughts on Cameron overall? He's an interesting
so
one.
Cameron is a tough one for me. I don't know. I'm very confused by a lot of what Cameron does and some of the things that he says. I feel like when he doesn't have power, he still feels like he has power. And as a viewer, we kind of know that's not the case. And now that he's HOH, um, and he actually has power, I think he's misusing it. Like, you had an alliance that for the
Yes.
past 2 weeks used you as a pawn. And for me, because I was told, when Turner put me up the very first time on his first HOH, he told me that me and Brittany were pawns for a backdoor thing. And it was like, but in the same breath, he was telling me how much he trusts me. And it was like, well, if you trust me, you wouldn't risk my game. You wouldn't
Mhm.
use me as a pawn. So for Cameron for 2 weeks in a row, this alliance is using him as a pawn, basically saying you're the most expendable person that we have. Why are you continuing to work with them. And I know, but I think that probably is a testament to Cirie's gameplay and creating
Yeah.
this alliance that after using him as a pawn 2 weeks in a row, he still believes that he has a firm spot within that alliance, which, good for her. I think it's definitely a mistake for him to believe that, though. Actions speak louder than words.
I couldn't agree more. I think I'm a little confused. I know Jag was always kind of his target. And, he mentioned the possibility of an Izzy backdoor. I don't think that's going to happen. He knows that he's in an alliance with Cirie and them, but he knows that there's also like a smaller faction and he seems to be fine with it. I don't know. And then him and Red is still saying, oh, Cirie is my number one right after you. So Cirie has the covers over all these people's eyes because I don't know how she's getting away with this.
I don't know. I think Red even made a comment about like, oh, like I would go home for Cirie or something to that effect. And I'm like, oh my, like watching her on TV, like we will never fully know, but like, oh, I really hope I get to meet her in person because like I really want to see like what it is, because obviously we fall in love with her on our TV screens, but I just think like in that environment when there's only one winner and like 3-4 weeks in and you're saying I would go home for someone else that I just met, like it's crazy. She's so good, and I'm so happy we get to see her with the live feeds, because obviously Survivor we just see the edited product and we can see that she's good, and now we're just seeing like how good she really is.
Yeah, for sure. And in terms of just pressure cooker, before we move on from that, how do you think you would have done the pressure cooker?
I think it would have depended on where I was at in the game. Like if I felt good, that's probably a competition that I wouldn't have wanted to. I mean, I would have wanted to win it, like as a fan, but
14 hours? I don't know.
Yeah, that I think puts a big target on your back to know that someone is like the mental toughness and focus that it takes to last 14 hours, like is a lot. But if I was like fighting for my life, I would have tried, and I would like to think I would have done okay, but again, you sit on your couch, like you just have to stand there and hold the button. But it was like, I mean, at like 1 a.m. I got tired and was like, I'm gonna go to bed, and like that's not the case if you're actually in the pressure cooker. But
Yeah.
when your life is on the line, I think it definitely motivates you a lot more, and you kind of pull something out of you that you maybe didn't know was there. So if I really felt it, I'd like to think that I could have held on.
I'm sure you could have. My favorite part was Cirie, Izzy, and Felicia just talking shit on the couch.
Yeah. Right.
I watched that live, and wow, did they just have like a complete trash talk session for hours watching this competition? And it was funny. I don't know. I like to think that it's not like hateful stuff. It's just like ridiculous comments. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I always tell people, like, imagine like the worst roommate that you've ever had, and how like
exactly.
you like the way they breathed eventually just annoyed you. Now like imagine that times 100, and like there's all this money on the line. Like you just get annoyed with roommates sometimes living in close proximity, and especially in the Big Brother house when they lock you in and can't even go in the backyard or whatever, and there's no escape. Like the petty things will come out, and you get out of the house and you're like, oh, like I actually really care about these people, and like we're just not meant to be roommates.
Yeah, I completely get that. I do want to talk about Jag a little bit, because he even said in the episode like, oh, there's not much for me to do. I'm like, I feel like Jag has a lot of information he could have used, and he didn't. I don't know. Did you feel like he was like fighting enough to not get nominated, or is that just me?
Yeah, I obviously it didn't look like that from our end, and we know that he has a lot of information. It's like, why not try to use it? But it definitely is a balancing act. Like if Cameron is, if Jag has a perspective on Cameron, like I know Cameron for these how many weeks, and like he's not going to change his mind no matter what I say. All I'm going to do is like he's going to run this information back, and then if I am on the block, I have no shot of getting the vote. So like I can understand sometimes from that perspective. Like going back to like when Turner put me and Brittany up, I was like one of the last people he talked to. I knew I wasn't going to change his mind, because like he'd already talked to everyone and told them what he's going to do. And I was like, the only thing I might be shooting myself in the foot. And if there's a backdoor target, that's not me. Maybe I just bite the bullet on this one. And so I do get it, but I don't know. It is, with this cast being as messy as they are, it's like I feel like anything could flip at any moment.
Oh,
like
yeah.
and especially because they had they had their handful alliance from week one. And so it's like not that long ago, you two are supposedly close allies. I
Yeah.
feel like you could maybe try to rekindle and reconnect something here.
Yeah, and I want to apologize for the listeners. Like this entire weekend almost killed me in terms of the fake alliance names, the real alliance names, who's working with who. I'm still trying to like understand it all, but I do know Jack knows about this Legend 25 alliance, what this big alliance, and I just feel like because he's in the seven deadly sins with Cirie also, he should have used that information and maybe outed it to Cam. And Cirie even thought he was going to and was kind of shocked he didn't. So I don't know. There was just like a few things that I was like, Jag, you could be doing this. Like, why are you not?
Yeah.
But I also understand like sometimes you just kind of want to lay low and hope you didn't. I don't even want to say ruffle feathers because he's in a chicken soup, but you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, depending on what happens, like if he is able to survive the week, it's probably good that he didn't say anything. But if he's evicted this week, he'll probably be kicking himself, like, why didn't I say
Yeah.
or try to do more? And hindsight's 2020, and we'll just have to kind of see what happens.
Yeah. They did play in the veto over the weekend, and before they even played, I think it was before they played, Red even said to Cam, like, I think I'd be okay with going up as a pawn. And I just want to know, Michael, is it ever okay, or should you ever offer yourself as a pawn on Big Brother?
No, absolutely not. Like, the saying always used to be the pawn goes home, and that hasn't really happened in
Right.
modern Big Brother
It
as
haven't.
much, but it's still a risk. And everything, because the veto is played on Saturday and the ceremony's on Monday, eviction is Thursday. Like that is a long time for people to scramble, things to flip, information to get out. So anytime you're sitting on the block, it is not good. And I don't think anybody should voluntarily put themselves in that position, especially this early in the game. Like if your number one ally is HOH and there's all these alliances and that everyone's playing messy and that votes were flipped and Red being left out of the Heisem blind side.
Right. Yeah.
Like, no, like your number one ally, he's not even going to consider putting you up. Don't give him that idea. Because as an HOH, the second you get an inclination that somebody's okay with going on the block, that is the best thing to hear because you're like, this is perfect.
Exactly.
If I can get my target out and somebody else who volunteered for this, they're not going to be mad at me and I can go into the next week with nobody coming after me, hopefully. Like that's the best thing you can hear. So an HOH is going to want to take advantage of that.
For sure. And especially with this cast, because obviously in past seasons, we have seen, oh, it was boring. Once the veto's played, like, okay, boring week, we know who's going home. Mm-hmm. Not with this cast. It's like flip flop, like all the time. So if you're on the block, you can guarantee Cirie is considering sending you home. So that's interesting. I also thought it was kind of weird, like before they played the veto, I think Jag was saying like, I'm thinking about picking Izzy to play if I get house guest choice. And I'm like, Izzy is the one person you can could potentially sit next to because Cam wants her out and stay. And I'm like, why would you pick her for the veto? Because if she wins. So that was also, Jag, I'm like, come on, guy. I have faith that he is trying to play it cool, but man, I need him to get in the game. I need him to wake up. I hope this week wakes him up a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, preseason, I had really high hopes for Jag because he seemed like he's calm, he seems rational, level-headed, and I think he is. Yeah, he's very calm, apparently, maybe a little too calm. But I think he has a lot of attributes that could really help him. Unfortunately, he's just not putting it all together or quite living up to, I think, what a lot of people were expecting. But I really hope that he stays and can turn it up because I think that he has all the makings, I think, to be a really great player. And, we'll see. I think part of it, too, is he's 24. So, like, he's still pretty young. And so I don't know. I look back and, like, when I applied, every single year, and when I was like, gosh, like if I was when I was young and thought that I was gonna do so, I probably would have been out pre-jury too, like
that's
so I think the more like a different perspective, and not that I was 28 when I played, but I still I look back like from the difference and I was like, I think I would have approached the game much differently and probably not as well as I did.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a total fair thing. If I played in my 20s, it'd be very different than if I'm playing in my 30s. Like not even close. How many times did you apply? Do we know this?
So I applied probably at seven times,
Wow.
maybe, like videos, and then I think I went to 3 open calls. Like I tried to put my face out there as much as I could, and
Oh. Wait, so
um
basically as soon as you were what age did you start?
21, sent my
Wow.
first video in, and I think maybe the only year I didn't was for season 22 because of COVID and All Stars, and I don't even remember if they were taking videos that year, but I think that maybe was the
Yeah.
only year that I didn't. But
Wow, that's amazing. I knew that you were a fan. I didn't know you applied that much, but
oh yeah,
see,
yep.
it does work.
Right,
Um,
and that's what I tell people, because I was like, at some point I was like, this is like my 8th time, it's probably not gonna happen. It was like, if I had just given up, like it wouldn't have. But it's like, you never know, you just never know what they're looking for, what they're going to see in you, or how things change. So I always give people that advice, like, as discouraged as it you might feel, keep going.
yeah, and it's a puzzle piece. Like they're trying to put together different pieces, and you might not fit that year.
Hmm.
So that's another thing. But look, now you hold the record for most veto wins. That's pretty freaking cool. I mean,
Yeah.
um, so I do want to say, like, we're going to talk a little bit about the live feeds and some spoilers. So if you're a spoiler averse, skip this part. But it does seem like they're now, Cirie is creating this faction to flip and send Blue home. The funny part is she needs Jared's vote because it hinges on that. So she did earlier today tell Jared, and he is not thrilled, obviously, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, I would say it's Sunday night. It's gonna flip a couple more times before Thursday. Do you
Oh,
think do you think and we're gonna talk about Jared and Blue, but do you think there's any chance Jared would ever like not do what Cirie told him to do? Like not vote the way she wants?
I think so, actually. I think that Jared, like, as much as obviously Jared and Cirie are going to work together, and I don't foresee him, trying to evict her
No,
necessarily.
yeah.
But I do think, and again, Jared is, he's young. I think coming into the game, like, nobody wants your parent telling you what to do, like, at any age. And I think there's going to be a little piece of him that probably feels, how cool would it be if, like, my mom, who is regarded as one of, like, the greatest reality TV contestants ever, like, I am able to, like, one up her, or I think there's got to be that little piece of him that's like, he probably feels like he's playing under her shadow and wants to make a name for himself. I think, and I think just when you're in the house and people get kind of distracted by, like, I want to make a big flashy move, I want something for my resume, even if it's maybe not the smartest thing, it's the biggest thing, and that would be a big thing to go against his mom and to come out on top in that. And I think, inevitably, when the secret does come out, because Jared cannot keep his mouth closed, um and I think when people do know, they're going to compare the two, and there's probably going to be the perception that, well, obviously Jared, he was carried by Cirie because of who she is. And so I do think that Jared it would be in his best interest to do some things separate from Cirie, so he has that to stand on if he does make it to the end. That's going to be a question that he'd be asked,
True.
how he played differently or didn't rely on his mom. But so early on, I don't know if that would be smart for him to go against her. And I think he needs to pick and choose his battles. And with what he's been telling Blue, I think
Oh
it's
my
better for
gosh.
him to let her go.
Yeah, okay, we have to get into this. And I do want to say I agree. I don't know if he would actually pull the trigger, but I do think, listen, Jared, I think, goes to reality events. I think he is proud to say Cirie is his mom and she's from Survivor and she's this legend. But I also think Jared came into this game thinking, I want to make a name for myself. That's what I thought. Now I feel like he's a little distracted. So over the weekend, him and Blue, they hooked up, whatever, on the lounge upstairs. Really awkward.
Yeah.
Want to move past that. But Cirie does not know this yet. So there's two things. She can find that out, and she definitely would probably want Blue gone because she's a distraction.
Mm-hmm.
But the worst thing is that Jared, for some reason, told Blue that his mom is in the house. And it gets weird because she assumes it's Felicia and he doesn't correct her. And
Mhm.
I'm so confused. Like, if someone tells you, hey, my mom is in the house, Michael, aren't you like, wait, what? How'd this happen? Who is she? Like, there was
Yes.
like no follow-up questions from Blue, even though Blue knows that he said, like, oh, I've been on TV before and I'm from Connecticut and I've been to Fiji. And he's like, and they're talking about how many siblings. I'm like, connect the dots. Like, what's going on here?
Right.
Um, yeah, I don't know why. Like, shouldn't there be more conversation about that from Blue? I feel like she's just like, whatever.
Yes, especially in a house where there are no phones, there's no TV. All you have to do
Yes,
is
that's the
talk. That's
gossip.
all. And like I love gossip. I love drama. So like anytime there was like a little hint of that, I was like, oh, like I want to know, like
Yes.
fill me in, what's going on? Like it's like spill. Like I want like it just I don't know. I don't know if that's part of her strategy. I want to give her the benefit of the doubt that maybe, but I don't know. I just don't know how anyone couldn't hear that and not have follow-up questions or try to get to the bottom of it.
Yeah. And I'm wondering, I'm assuming that at some point in the next 4 days, whatever, that she will try to get clarification and maybe he will clarify, no, it's not Felicia. And no, I'm not related to Denzel Washington. It's actually Cirie. Um, but I'm curious, do you think that their connection is so close that she wouldn't reveal that before? Like if she ends up going home, do you think she won't say anything? It's tough.
That's tough. I don't know. I think it would depend if like so if I'm Blue and I know the secret and I'm keeping it and the vote comes in and it's unanimous, I would be like, okay, screw you. You couldn't even throw me one pity vote. Like I have your game in my hands and you couldn't even throw me a bone on my way out the door. I would totally say something like if
Well,
I were
especially
that, but
you don't want hugs. So you're like,
right.
I feel like you would definitely say it.
Yeah. I think I mean if he actually was trying to save her and she knew that he was putting in the work for her, then sure I could see her not saying anything because she wouldn't want to blow up his game out going out. But I don't know. And the unfortunate thing too for her, I think, would be even, if nominations stay the same, that secret doesn't keep her. Like if she reveals it, it's not going to incentivize people to vote Jag out
Right.
over her. So the only thing that she could do would be to try to blackmail Cirie with it. And she doesn't even know that it's about Cirie at this point. Like, so I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a mess. I think that's the best way to
It's so
sum up everything. It's a
messy.
mess.
It's so messy. And there are so many factors because I think the vote at this point would come out 6-4, I believe. And so there's that. And there's also like, yeah, what does she know? I don't know. I think we have to let this play out a couple more days to see if one, to see if Jared would actually like vote to keep Blue or vote to evict her, and two, if more information comes out. And then how do you think Cirie would react? Not to about the hookup, I don't care about that, but to if it somehow gets back to her that whether Jared tells her or she finds out that this secret is out and Jared was the one to say it. What do you think? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think it's gonna go over well. I mean, we saw like in the second episode when she overheard him telling Kirsten, like, we'll talk later, and she's like, no, cut that out. Like, don't
Yes.
do that. And like to be like, you just revealed like the biggest secret, the thing that we've spent all these weeks, plotting and setting ourselves up so perfectly, and you just for no reason told the secret that could easily blow up both of our spots. Like, oh, I think I would be pissed, and I think that she would definitely not be happy, especially because I think maybe it was this last week she was even saying like, I've had my experience on reality TV. If it comes down to me and you, I want you to have this, Jared. And it's like she's willing to give up everything, and he's like can't even keep his mouth shut because he's been cuddling with someone for a couple days, and it's like, oh, I don't know if like honestly. I understand that Cirie is probably never going to want to get rid of Jared,
Yeah.
but there's part of me that I could just like the Cirie fan of me is just like, Cirie, I think your game would be
Cut him
so much
loose.
better.
Cut
Just
him
let him
loose.
go.
No, I agree. And you know what, though? I will say, if I'm going to have confidence that anyone could smooth this over if the whole house found out, it's Cirie. She's the
Oh yeah.
only one that could, like, maybe last and get through that revelation if it like blew up or something. Like she's the only one. So we'll see. Like even if it did blow up, I have confidence in Cirie that she could fix it. Yeah, but I just at some point I kind of just I wanted to cut Jared loose because I just don't see him winning this game anyway. So it's could I don't know. But I do want to talk a little bit about America and Corey. They're pretty much in a showmance, I would say, at this point. And I really like them as players. I'm enjoying them. I do think they're in a little bit of trouble because Cirie is starting to catch on and hearing from like Matt and Jag and stuff that Corey's letting stuff slip. You know, she's telling Jared, don't trust Corey. So I think Corey can be in a little bit of trouble, but I think he also knows he's like not that close to that group. So I don't know. I'm interested to see who wins HOH this week and how that plays out. How do you feel about Corey? I know you liked him.
Yeah, I do like Corey. I think that, and it was funny in tonight's episode when he was talking about like, you know, coming in, I thought I was going to be the nerd, and here I am, like America's sweetheart, you know, like with the pun in there. Like it's funny, I think, and I don't know. I think a showmance obviously puts a target on their backs because they're now two people. But me going in, I wanted to work with a showmance because I was like, if you have a showmance firmly in your corner, that is 2 votes if you're on the block, assuming, you know, you're against someone who's not in the showmance. And that's hopefully a bigger target than you moving forward. Like now I would never want to go to, you know, like Final 4, Final 3 with a showmance.
Right.
But I think early on, it can be a pretty effective shield. So I don't know. I don't know if there's people really thinking that way. That was my thought process going in. But it can be beneficial. But I think ultimately most people view it more as a threat than something that they can maybe work to their advantage. So I do think it's going to put a target on their backs. And, you know, they've done a pretty good job of being kind of in the middle. They haven't had a lot of eyes on them. I know America's name has floated around a little bit, but it's never really gained any real traction. And Corey, you know, he was maybe in a little bit of trouble the first day or two and got out of that pretty easily. And I think they're both very well liked in the house as people. And I think that's also something that's just underrated, the power of being likable. Like if people just want to be around you, it's so much easier to convince yourself to get rid of someone that you just don't like and every little thing that they do bothers you. You convince yourself of strategic reasons why it's good for them to go. And if you like someone, you try to convince yourself for strategic reasons why it's good for them to stay. So hopefully they can just stay being nice and likable and on everyone's good side.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to a bunch of things of like who's in power, because do I think Cirie wants Corey in America probably out? Yeah, like at some point, but maybe she'll keep them around to go after Red and Cam. I don't know. Like there's so many scenarios and there's so many alliances at this point. I can't even keep them like straight. I really can't. I had to write them out because there's so many.
Yeah, I think the Corey and Cirie dynamic is also kind of interesting that I want to see more of, because week 1, you know, he was really, you know, telling Cirie how much of a fan he was and how robbed she was on her seasons. And it seemed like Cirie kind of took that to be like, he's going to cut me at some point. He knows what I'm capable of. And at least I haven't seen on the feeds any too much of a real follow-up on that, but I have to imagine like Cirie is obviously thinking about that eventually. And I would like to hear more about what she thinks about that, but it hasn't really come up yet.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting. I feel like that's going to be like the actual battle is a little bit of like a Corey versus Cirie.
I agree.
I think it's going to come to a head at some point. Because listen, I think at the end of the day, and I think Corey said this, he would love to be the person to get Cirie out. Like put a little feather in his cap. Like I get it. She's a shiny target. So I think that's going to be an exciting part of the game when we get to that point, whenever it is. Who did we not talk about? Oh, Bowie. Poor Bowie. She doesn't get a lot of airtime. The house guests seem to really not like her. I think it's one of those things, like you said, you live with somebody, you need someone to complain about. Like you need something to, you know, bitch about basically. And I feel like Bowie is the latest one, and they're just like, she's not a DJ and all this stuff. And I think they don't realize how loyal she actually is to that bye bitches or whatever, like the Cirie Felicia. I don't think they realize like she's very loyal to them.
Yeah, that's another thing that confuses me when they talk about like, oh, we can't tell Bowie this, or we can't ask Bowie about this vote. It's like, why? Like, what has she done to prove that she wouldn't be with you? And I think that's also a big mistake, to leave people out of plans if
Right.
you want to have, if you think they're on your side and they've shown you nothing but loyalty. I think, like, even if you've already made a decision, I think you can easily, approach them and be like, what do you think about this? Or we heard something about this, like, what are you can just pose a question and see how they respond. And I don't know, it seems so weird that they're just like, we can't trust her. And I don't know,
Yeah.
like,
I think was she the one who told, I think she was the one who told, or maybe it wasn't her that told Red that the Heisem flip, but it could have been someone else. Honestly, so maybe it was because of that, but there's just a lot of tension in that group, because even as something as simple as, I think she's been upset that everyone stays up really late because they won't shut off the lights in the have not room unless two people are sleeping, and Izzy's just up all hours and she's like pissed.
yeah.
So stuff as simple as like you said, living with somebody,
Mhm.
it bubbles up all this
Yeah.
little
I
stuff.
will never forget. There was one night, it was like week 2 or 3. Terrence was the worst snorer ever. And I was sharing a room with him. And it was like 4 or 5 in the morning. And I woke up and I could not go back to sleep. And I was like, I need to get him out now because I'm going crazy because I can't sleep. And
Oh,
that was just like one night of terrible sleep. And then in the morning, I was like, that's stupid. Like, no. But it's just like the littlest things. And when you're sleep deprived and high stress,
so,
like, you just convince yourself, like, this is what I need to do. And it's like, you just kind of need to check yourself and be like, no, like, take a nap and you'll be good. Like, I don't know.
yeah. Who else? Oh, we already talked a little bit about, I love Felicia. I mean,
Oh,
we haven't seen that much of her. Well, no, we saw a bunch of her. But how did you like her HOH reign? I thought it was funny.
yeah. So I was super excited that Felicia won HOH. I think especially because people were obviously underestimating her. People in the house, people outside the house were like, she's never going to win anything. And so I was glad that she could prove them wrong, because I think in a lot of competitions, on any given day, anybody can win and pull out a win when you least expect it. So I was very proud of her. We got the great moment of her getting her seasonings, and
Oh, good.
so I was very happy on a personal level. From the game standpoint, I don't know how effectively she used her HOH.
Yeah.
Obviously we know that Heisem wasn't coming after her, so, but I don't know, it could end up being a good thing for her that this is a big thing that she has on her resume, and yet nobody is throwing her name out. Nobody's like, Felicia got Heisem out, like that's going to be something big that she can argue in the end, anything like that. So I think she did a good job of how she went about it and making sure that everyone was on board, and her entire alliance was good with backdooring someone in the alliance, and she got out with no blood on her hands. And especially with Cameron using him as a pawn and him winning HOH, not even considering her, I think she
That's
ultimately
true.
did a good job of positioning herself. I don't know how it'll end up with who she targeted and if it'll come back to bite her. I hope it doesn't, but
Yeah.
unfortunately, I think it could.
She's fun to watch. When you said that, I just like got an image, like an image in my head of, if it were Cirie and Felicia in the final two. Felicia's, I got a Heisem, I did this, and then Cirie stands up and was like, "Well, actually, I'm the one who did this."
Yeah.
That'll be fun. I don't know. Um, Mimi, I feel like we don't get enough of Mimi because she's really funny when I do see her on the live feeds, and I
Mhm.
think she's in a good spot. I mean, like, well, her name comes up a little bit, but I feel like she's kind of just riding the wave. I don't
Yeah.
know. We don't
Yeah,
hear
she's
much about her.
another one that I really like. I think she's very, very level-headed, very, like, she's the way that she sees the game, it's kind of like how I'm looking at it as a viewer, and a lot of the reads that
Yep.
she has. And I'm like, I think she's very in tune to what's going on. I think what hurts her a little bit is that she is observant and she maybe doesn't
Use
I
it.
maybe offer enough information where then they're distrustful of her that she's not telling them more or doing this. And especially she's just playing so different from everyone, and I think playing very smart, that people are skeptical, because anything that makes you stick out or appear different from other people, even if it's just how you're approaching the game, how you're playing the game, can always put a target on you. But I think she's one to watch, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like she's kind of a dark horse, her and Matt. Like, they're not doing a lot, but at the same time, like, I always say if I went on Big Brother, I probably wouldn't do much the first half. Like I would just kind of try to ride the wave and then maybe turn it on. So, we'll see. She did perform pretty well in the pressure cooker too. So like who knows? She could pull out some comp wins.
Okay.
But I really like her. I do want to talk about this America's vote. So what we know, I think it's called the power of invisibility. I believe America's voting. I think it ends tomorrow, Monday. And I think the top 4 vote getters are then going to anonymously compete. Is that right, Michael? Is that
I
what?
think so. Yep,
Okay.
that's what I understand.
Who do we think the 4 will be? I'm assuming Cirie is going to be one of them. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I think Cirie. I think fans, especially who just watch the episodes, really love Matt. I think that Corey is very popular. I think both by live feeders and episode watchers. And then I don't know, maybe America. All my votes have gone to Izzy personally.
Love it.
Especially when Cameron won HOH, I was like, I think she could be in trouble. I want it to be Izzy. And plus I was like, I want someone also who would be willing to use it on somebody else. And I think that Izzy is someone who's playing hard. And if someone in her alliance was going home, she would be willing to do that. And I think there are some people in the house who, are maybe playing a little more subdued or a little calm, like would hold it for themselves. And like, I want someone who's going to make the most of it. Because how many times do we see secret powers get put into play in Big Brother and they just expire, they don't get used? And it's like, I know production is just like itching for one to finally go like and make a difference, because so often people just don't use it and they go out with it, or I don't know. So I hope it's someone at least who will use it and shake things up.
That's true. I'm wondering, did Jag get enough screen time? I mean, he's in trouble, so I'm wondering if America, he did get a decent amount of screen time, that they might vote for him, like, for example, tonight. Could you see Blue or him maybe winning it?
I would say probably Jag over Blue.
Me too,
I would, I could see that. And I think, I mean, I really like Jag, so I would assume other people also like him from what they've seen on the show. Like he hasn't done anything bad, so hopefully. And I don't know, if that's something that I've done in the past too. If I like thought someone was in trouble, that's where all my votes went. So I don't know.
I'm with you though. I kind of love the chaos. And listen, Cirie, she doesn't need it. Like she can get herself out of anything. So like someone like Izzy would be so fun. Even though she'd probably just use it on her line. So we'll see. It's interesting. I'm glad that they get to compete though, and it's not just a popularity contest, because those always, are very like it's obvious. Cirie probably would have won that. So
I agree. It is going to be interesting. I don't think we know exactly what that's going to look like. Is everyone going to know that?
I think it's anonymous.
Or like, is everyone going to be told and they just won't know who competed? Or is it going to be the 4 and nobody else knows there's even a power? I'm interested to see how they're going to do that, because, oh my gosh, like the cast is going to go wild speculating if they are told there is a power, like what it is, how they get it, who has, it's going to be a mess. And
paranoia.
I expect players will use that to their advantage. And I think, I don't know, I think especially Cirie, I think could use that to leverage a flip to get Blue out potentially.
That's true. I don't think, we don't know yet, right? Like, so we're not even sure if they're going to tell that. The house guys probably are just going to know that there's a power, but I don't know if they're going to say, because the power is apparently you can save an evicted house guest at the next 2 evictions only. I also do you think that means that after they're voted out or before they're voted out?
I have no idea. Is it going to be like beforehand they're asked, like, if Jag gets voted out, do you want to use it? And then it like pops up on the screen, or do they have to publicly stand up and say, I'm using it's like, I'm very interested, and it's going to be very, very interesting, I think. And I hope that it gets used. I really hope it gets used.
Yes, me too. Because I mean, I'm not a huge like, I don't love the twist of it all, but like, you're right. Like, there's been so many times where they introduced the power and it just died. Like, nothing ever happened. And this house is so chaotic already. I'm just like, you know what? Throw something else in. That's fine. These people are crazy. Well, as we
I'm always team fun feeds. That's my allegiance. Team fun feeds.
For sure. Even though I'm like so you know, I am a Cirie fan, so I'm a little biased, but like I love that when it flips back to a different power every week. Like that's
Mhm.
fun. No one wants to watch a steamroll, like you said.
Yeah.
So but no, as we wrap up, I have just a couple more questions. I'm curious, like, are you interested in playing again?
Oh, I would 100% play again. I
Like,
would I would love to. I've obviously I'm still like on Twitter and stuff, and people are like, if Michael ever goes back, he's gonna be the first one out because everyone's gonna gun for him. And it's like,
it
even if I was the
depends.
first one out, it was like I would, I would rather try and fail than be like, oh well, I want to protect my legacy. Like I think that's stupid. Like it was such an incredible experience, and I would love to do it again.
Okay, good. Because I also, it just so depends on who's with you. So you can't
Mhm.
really even say, like, oh, Michael would be, who knows? Maybe there's like all winner, like a bunch of winners in
Yeah.
there, you don't know. So, okay, well, I like to hear that. Have you ever considered like Survivor or any other shows?
I've applied for Survivor in the past. And I think I've always said like, my goal was never to be like, oh, I'm going to use Big Brother to get onto this, to get onto that. But like, if something came up, I would say yes. But I'm also very happy with where I'm at in life and working and with Hayden and the cats. And like, I'm very
Yeah.
happy here. And like, if I never do another show again, like my life is totally fine.
Would you, now that I'm thinking about it, I couldn't see you on the challenge because I feel like you're not about that, like that kind of drama. But at the same time, you would be good at the competitions, no?
I think I would do okay at the daily challenges. I would
Yeah.
snap in half if you threw me in like a hall brawl or like a pole
True.
wrestle. It would be like, I would make
Yeah.
history for like the shortest elimination, and like they would just like yank it right out of my hand. Like I don't think I'd be good in those like, one-on-one wrestling
Fair.
type eliminations, but I think the dailies look like a lot of fun. Like a lot of those are more like, agility and puzzles and stuff like that. It's like, okay, I could get behind that, but if I'm in an elimination, it's a wrap. But
Yeah. When
I
what
think it
about
would
a
still be fun. I would give it a shot probably.
how about a final? How's your endurance? Well, yeah, it's pretty.
I think, well, so I had knee surgery recently. So I've been out of commission running for a little bit, but I think if I had some time to train again, like long distance running, like I did cross country in high school and college, and um, I don't know how I would do with eating gross things. I don't think that would be my forte, but or if they made you like, you know, move these 100 heavy boulders, like I'd probably be there
Yeah.
all day. But some of the things I think I could do pretty well with, and I don't think I would be walking. So
Yeah, I just want to thank you for joining me. We tried to break it down, guys. There's so much going on in the house. So everything we're saying on Sunday right now could change by Monday morning. We have no idea.
yeah, by the
Um,
time I look at Twitter again, things will
it'll be
probably be
different.
different.
Yeah, it'll change. But yeah, for the listeners, I had a great chat with June Song, the winner of season 4. So please go check that out. And I also got together a bunch of the people that played in the original pressure cooker, which was wild. I threw that together last minute, and it turned out to be really cool. A lot of these players haven't talked in years, so it ended up being a really fun little reunion. So please check that out. And yeah, I'll be back on Wednesday with another winner, and I'll see you guys then. Thanks, Michael.